So this video is just basically a simple summary of what the Triumph Tiger 1050 Sport is like to ride in an urban environment. So this one is a 2013 model. What additional features has it got? So it's got Oxford heated grips, it's also got crash bars, it's got a low rider seat, it's been lowered 40mm at the rear and 14mm at the front, and that hasn't affected the handling. I know a lot of people are quite worried about a motorcycle's handling after they've been lowered. However, this doesn't seem to be affected in the slightest, which is always a nice feature. And it's also got some fog lights. Fitted them just for a bit of extra visibility at night, because the Tiger headlights, they're awful. They are honestly one of the worst headlights I've ever come across on a motorcycle. So I will be upgrading these bulbs, as this is a Revolution motorcycle, it's not a higher one. Now a full review of this bike will come at some point in our usual style. However, for the time being, this is just literally going to be a quick summary of what it's like to ride. It's also got an additional wind deflector on the windscreen, and that does make a very nice difference. You can feel the wind going straight up over the head rather than in your face, because the windscreen on this bike is a very short one. It's not a big touring screen, so that additional feature does make a difference. It's also got the Arrow exhaust, and that is standard from factory. Now, it doesn't make a big difference on the noise, however, looks wise it is a good additional feature. The wind mirrors on this bike are quite good. They're nice and close to you, so when you're riding you only pretty much need to look with your eyes, you don't need to move your head, which is quite good. Now, something I have found really annoying about this bike, and I don't know if it's all Tigers or if it's just this one, but the actual gear shift is really heavy. I'm going to have to put some wires down slightly. It's like the clutch is light, but the actual gear selector is really stiff. I have had to spray some True Tensions multi-purpose spray over it just to try and like give it a bit more freedom, and that has worked, but it's been set up for a couple of days and I can't even get it into neutral. It's that stiff that it just does not want to go into neutral. So I'm going to have a look at that properly at some point to try and figure out why it's doing that. However, it's only a little minor thing. I tend to leave most motorcycles in gear, as when I was in Italy I had a GSX-R decide to take off downhill slightly when I got off of it. It was only a very slight downhill gradient, but nonetheless it moved forward. So this one will always be left in gear. Now this Triumph does also come with a top box, and the top box on this Tiger is ridiculously big. It is massive, but that's a good thing, because the purpose of getting this, as well as that Honda CBF 1000 that we've got, is to be able to go away, do some touring on them, do some big adventures, and not have to worry about luggage. So it will serve its purpose very well. So in the top box for this bike is a 12-volt charger, which is fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. It's all properly wired in. When you look at the actual top box plate that it connects to, you've got metal connectors which the top box slides into to give you a nice power supply. So we'll be able to charge all our camera kit, to continue to bring you guys some awesome videos. And this Tiger's even got a 12-volt supply at the front of the bike. I don't know if you can see that. So that will help with any cameras we have at the front of the bike, any mobile phones that we've got. And also I want to give a big shout out to Ultimate Add-ons. We've got an Ultimate Add-ons mount on the handlebars, allowing us to attach our phone, our GoPros, you name it. With Ultimate Add-ons you can pretty much get an attachment for anything. So that also had to go on straight away when we got this bike. I'll put the link in the description below for Ultimate Add-ons, so you can have a look at their website and see what they sell. But I highly recommend them. I've had Ultimate Add-ons on the GSXR 750, the GSXR 600, this Tiger, and also I've got Ultimate Add-ons on the Honda CBF 1000. Now the pickup of this bike is really, really good. It's got 115 brake horsepower and 98 Newton meters of torque, and you really do notice it. It really does shift really well. The Triumph triple engine, again, really, really torquey, really responsive. And what's it like for filtering? Can we filter? Look at that, nice and easy. This bike is good for around town. What I have noticed is that the actual handlebars and the wing mirrors on this bike are higher than car wing mirrors. So as you're filtering, you've got absolutely no issue whatsoever getting through anything. Very little will stop you, which is perfect. And that's what you want for a motorbike. You need something that can filter. Now the riding position on this bike is really comfy. When we collected it from Superbike Factory up in Macclesfield, and we rode it back, and for a long distance ride this is really, really comfy. This is the type of bike style that you want. The seat is really, really nice. The riding position is good, so you feel really secure on the bike, which is what you want. So I've got to give this bike a big thumbs up. It's really, really nice. If you haven't ridden a Triumph Tiger Sport, definitely get out there, find someone that will let you ride one and take it out for a spin. Now what are the other plans we're going to be having for this bike? So we need to get some pannier brackets, because we will be running soft panniers on this bike. We're not going to go for hard ones, purely on the fact that if this bike does fall over, we don't want to shatter the hard panniers. So we'll be looking at getting some soft ones. We might look at Lone Rider or Givey, any of those soft bags. So if you are from Lone Rider or Givey and you want to sponsor us and you want to hand out some soft panniers for a Triumph Tiger Sport 1050 2013 edition, we will be very grateful for you. When we do get the panniers and the pannier supports, we will be putting them on a YouTube video to show you how to install them. Now when we got this bike, it was standard height, and Holly found it quite difficult to get a foot flat footed most places, because this bike does weigh about 235 kilograms, so it's not a light bike, and a lot of the weight is actually really high up. So when you're manoeuvring it and you're walking it, it really does become a bit of a pain in the backside. So we had to drop the bike 40 millimeters, and the lowering links were about £60, which isn't too bad, to be honest, compared to the cost of dropping a new bike, because you can't get your foot flat on the ground. So it was an investment well spent. And if you haven't lowered a motorcycle, it is really simple. It's very simple on a Triumph Tiger, because all you need to do is support the rear wheel, so the rear wheel doesn't have any weight pressing down on that suspension. Now the way we done that was, I pulled the bike backwards towards the side stand, and then we slid in an axle stand under the engine block. That allowed the rear wheel to to no longer bear the weight of the bike. Before we done that though, we did loosen the bolts, so we didn't have to put a lot of pressure onto the bolts when the bike was obviously not fully stable. And then it was a case of just loosen the bolts fully, take them out. The rear wheel then drops. Once that rear wheel is dropped, I held the rear wheel back up so the bolts all lined up in the right position. Holly put the new bolts back in and put the new attachments on, and also the bolts went back in. We then lowered it back to the floor, tightened the bolts up. Now normally you would have to adjust the chain because it would actually put a bit more tension on the chain, but thankfully we didn't need to do that, so it was all good. But then we had to drop the front forks by 14 millimeters. That was easy, just undo the supporting bolts, wiggle it down, do one side, do the other side, job done. Nice and easy. And now she can get her feet pretty much flat-footed on the bike, which is ideal. Now this Tiger has done 16,000 miles. It's had its valve clearance service prior to us purchasing it. And the one thing that I am slightly disheartened with buying this from Superbike Factory is the fact that it hasn't had service in 3 years. 3 years with no service. You'd think that they would actually service the bike before selling it. I know they've got a lot of bikes, but when you spend a lot of money on a bike, you want it serviced. All the bikes I've bought second hand have always come with a brand new service from the dealership, be it Honda, Kawasaki, KTM. They've all serviced the bikes prior to me collecting it. So what else do I like about this bike? I like the colour. The red is really, really nice. It's nice and bright. It looks really, really nice and expensive. I also like the matte colour of the frame of the bike, and also the crash bars. Where the crash bars are matte as well, it actually all blends in really well with the bike. We will need to get some better tyres on this bike at some point. They're good, they've got plenty of tread, but I've had the rear wheel skip out a few times on me, which is a bit concerning. Whereas the Honda CBF 1000 I've got, that doesn't do that on the same areas, the same parts of the road, etc. So I know it's definitely the tyres on this bike, so they need to go. The bike has also got some different levers. They're not standard, but they actually do work really well. They feel really nice, really solid. And also when you change gear on this bike, I was saying earlier that it's quite a clunky, difficult bike to get into neutral, but when you change gear, the actual movement in the gear is really the gear selector is really short, really clunk. It just feels like you've really put it into gear and you know about it. So I do like the gear, changing gears on this bike. And unfortunately this bike doesn't come with cruise control, which is a shame, or a gear indicator. I don't know why Triumph didn't put a gear indicator on this bike. It would be a very simple thing to do, but they opted not to. The dials on this bike are really, really simple to read. Even at night they give off a nice white back glow. So when you look down, you got your time top left hand corner, you got your engine temperature directly below it, you got your miles, your odometers right at the bottom, you got your speed right smack bang in the middle, really, really easy to view, and you got your fuel on the right hand side. There is a hazard light switch. You've also got down here on your left hand stalk a few more buttons to go through different modes, and on the right hand side of the display you've also got your Rev Counter. Your Rev Counter has got a neutral light, high beam, a fuel, and it's also got a bell. I'm not too sure what that bell light is for. It's got an ABS light, your indicator lights, engine management light, ABS light, water temperature warning light, and also it looks like a tyre pressure monitor, which is quite cool. So yeah, this bike is really nice, really comfy, and like I said, it is good at filtering. Though I'm not going to filter with that coming towards me. I think that would ruin my day a little bit. There are so many roadworks going on at the moment, but hopefully with these roadworks it will make the traffic a lot easier through this part of the country. Slot in here. The brakes on this bike are really good as well. The rear brake is one of the best brakes I've ever had on a motorcycle. It's almost as good as a front brake. It really does work well, and the front brake is really good as well. No issues with the brakes on this bike. The suspension is really comfortable. I've taken this over a fair few bumps recently and it has not given me any problems whatsoever, so that's another big thumbs up with this bike. The suspension is fantastic. Got good ground clearance. What I would like on this bike is some like semi-road off-road tyres as well, just so, I mean, realistically I won't be going off-road that much on this bike, but when we hit some gravelly areas it would be nice to know that we've got the capability to put down some decent tread. The handling around corners is really smooth, and the exhaust tone, I love it. I think it's a bit of a mixture between exhaust and engine, however it does sound really nice still. I've not had a single ache or pain on this bike since riding it, which is always good. Knowing that we can go long distance on these bikes is a massive help. So thank you for watching my initial review of the Triumph Tiger Sport 1050 2013 edition. Don't forget, there will be a full in-depth review of this bike coming very soon in the usual Resolution style that we make our videos. If you've got any questions about this bike, pop it in the comment section and we'll be sure to get back to you. Don't forget, give us a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Let's get up to 1,000 subscribers within our first year of being live, and also press the bell for notifications and thumbs up. So this is Resolution signing off with the Triumph Tiger 1050 Sport.